Welcome back to the Diva Details. Today we're getting into one of the biggest questions I'm asked. How do you know if someone is your soulmate? Not a crush. Not that can't stop thinking about them chemistry. Not amazing sex. I mean a real partner, emotionally safe, aligned, steady, and genuinely life-expanding. And right alongside that question is another one people whisper to themselves while they're dating. How long should you give it before you decide this person is truly who they say they are? Because the truth is, most people don't show their full self in the first few weeks. Honestly, sometimes not even in the first few months. So let's slow this down. We're going to talk about what a soulmate actually is and what it isn't, how to read behavior instead of falling in love with potential, how to pace your attachment, how to notice red flags before you're bonded, and how to decide, without fear, whether this person belongs in your life. Here's where I want to start. A soulmate does not arrive with chaos. They don't bring emotional whiplash. They don't keep you in a constant state of wondering where you stand. A real soul-level connection feels steady. You feel yourself soften around them. Your body relaxes. Your mind gets quieter, not louder. You're not trying to earn love. You're not performing to keep their attention. You're not living with that low-level panic that love could disappear at any moment. Instead, you feel met. And that matters because healthy love doesn't overwhelm your nervous system. It settles it. And that calm isn't boredom. That calm is safety. Now, let's clear up a common misunderstanding. A soulmate is not automatically the person who makes your heart race non-stop. It's not just the person you have instant chemistry with. It's not the person who feels intoxicating, addictive, dramatic, or impossible to resist. And it's definitely not the person you're constantly anxious about losing. A lot of the time, what people label as soulmate energy is actually trauma bonding, fantasy, or a nervous system that's been trained to mistake intensity for love. A true soulmate is someone whose presence calms your system. They bring clarity, not confusion. Their actions match their words. And being with them makes life feel more stable, not more chaotic. And this is a line I want you to remember: soulmates are revealed over time, not through intensity. If something feels too fast, too overwhelming, too perfect, it might be wise to pause. The kind of love that lasts usually unfolds steadily. It grows roots, it doesn't explode like fireworks and burn out. Because here's the thing. Chemistry is powerful, but chemistry is not character. Chemistry can come from familiar emotional patterns. It can come from childhood wounds. It can come from attachment styles that haven't been healed yet. It can come from novelty and excitement. But chemistry doesn't tell you how someone handles stress. It doesn't tell you how they treat people when they're exhausted. It doesn't tell you whether they can show up consistently when the thrill wears off and real life begins. Chemistry can feel electric. It can feel magnetic. It can feel like fate. And sometimes it's not fate at all. Sometimes it's familiarity with something you've already outgrown. Sometimes your body is recognizing something unresolved and calling it romance. A soulmate doesn't pull you into emotional highs and lows. They bring you back to center. So if love feels like anxiety, if dating them feels like holding your breath, that's not necessarily intuition saying yes. That might be your nervous system asking for safety. So many people confuse "I feel something intense" with "this person is right for me." But intensity is not intimacy. Intensity is not trust. Intensity is not partnership. A soulmate doesn't keep you in emotional uncertainty. They ground you in emotional clarity. Now let's talk about timing, because this is where a lot of people get hurt. You cannot fully read someone in the first 30 to 60 days. You just can't. Early on, most people are still on their best behavior. They're avoiding conflict. They're trying to impress you. They're leading with charm, not consistency. They might not even know how they act once real life hits, because they're still in the highlight reel with you. You really start learning someone when the routine sets in. When comfort replaces novelty. When stress shows up. When boundaries are tested. When expectations get clearer. That's when you get the truth of their patterns. So here's a grounded way to look at it. In the first 0 to 3 months, you're collecting data. That's it. You're observing. You're not rushing into emotional commitment. You're not deciding forever based on a few really good dates and a strong vibe. From 3 to 6 months, patterns start forming. You get to see how they handle disappointment, how they communicate when plans change, how consistent they are, how they deal with scheduling and real priorities. This is where you stop listening to promises and start watching behavior. From 6 to 9 months, you often see the mask slip, in a good way or a bad way. Performance fades. Comfort grows. And the question becomes, who are they when they're not trying so hard to win you? By 9 to 12 months, you should have a strong sense of whether this is truly aligned for a long-term partnership. And pay attention to this: if someone pressures you into deep commitment before the relationship has had time to reveal real patterns, that isn't romance. That's often insecurity, or control, or a fear-based need to lock you in before you can clearly see them. Okay. So what are the real markers of a soul-level connection? Let's make it practical. First, emotional safety. You can express yourself without fear of punishment, withdrawal, or being mocked. You're not walking on eggshells. You're not rehearsing every conversation in your head to avoid a reaction. You feel safe to be human. Second, consistency over time. Not just when it's fun, not just when they're in a great mood. Consistency on good days, stressful days, after the honeymoon phase, when life is boring. Consistency is the language of real love. Third, mutual effort. You're not carrying the relationship. You're not the only one planning. You're not the only one initiating emotional depth, checking in, or trying to repair things. A soulmate meets you halfway without you having to beg for basics. Fourth, values alignment. Not hobbies. Not music taste. Not whether you both like traveling. Values. Things like integrity, loyalty, growth, communication, and accountability. Because if your values don't match, chemistry will not rescue the relationship. It'll only distract you until the problems become too painful to ignore. Fifth, how conflict feels afterward. Disagreements are normal. But after a hard moment, do you feel closer and clearer, or do you feel punished? In a healthy connection, conflict doesn't turn into stonewalling, silent treatment, name-calling, or emotional retaliation. A soulmate doesn't fight to win. They fight to understand. Another sign: you're not constantly convincing yourself. You're not forever explaining their behavior to your friends. You're not repeating, "they're just stressed," as a lifestyle. You're not staying because you hope they'll become a different person once things settle down. You feel secure with what's actually happening, not with what you wish would happen. And here's a big one: when the right person enters your life expands. You become more confident, more regulated, more yourself, more peaceful. A soulmate doesn't shrink your world. They expand it. Now I want to gently talk about the part that's hard. Sometimes it's not a soulmate, but you want it to be. And you can feel yourself trying to make it work through pure hope. If you're making excuses for inconsistency, if you feel anxious more than calm, if you're waiting for clarity that never comes, if you feel unseen or undervalued, if you're hoping time will fix core issues that keep repeating, that's not a soulmate. That's attachment to potential. Love should not require self-abandonment. And you don't lose your soulmate by walking away from the wrong person. You make space for the right one. So here's a question to ask yourself, and I want you to answer it honestly, not hopefully. If nothing about this person changed, would you still feel deeply fulfilled 5 years from now? Not maybe. Not it could be. Not if they just healed this one thing. Calm certainty. A soulmate feels like a yes without anxiety. They won't confuse you. They won't rush you. They won't make you doubt your worth. They'll meet you where you are. They'll grow with you. And they'll choose you consistently, not only when it's convenient. So trust time. Trust patterns. Trust your nervous system. Real love is steady. Real love is safe. Real love is mutual. If this episode gave you clarity, share it with someone who needs truth, not fantasy. This is the Diva Details reminding you that you are worthy of a love that feels like home.